Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lita Noluchungu. I'm a lecturer here in the Department of Civil Engineering. Welcome to our Virtual Open Day. With me, I have Professor Neil Armitage, who will be co-hosting the online event with me. So what we have planned for you today is a presentation, but by our current head of department, Professor Pilot Moyo, will be showing you that. Thereafter, we'll open the floors for any questions that you may have for us, and we will take it from there. Questions coming through, please type them in the question and answer bubble that you have there as the presentation is going. Anytime you have a question, please feel free to just pop it in and we will attend to it right at the end of the presentation. Okay, so for now, we'll just get right into it and present civil engineering to you. Please enjoy.
Welcome to the University of Cape Town's Open Day 2022, and a special welcome to the Department of Civil Engineering. My name is Professor Pilot Moyo. I'm the head of the Department of Civil Engineering, and thank you for joining us. I'm going to talk about what civil engineering entails and what civil engineers do. Civil engineering is the profession that is responsible for the planning, the design, construction, the operation, and maintenance of physical infrastructure such as dams, roads, bridges, buildings, water treatment works, and so on. The field of civil engineering has many sub-disciplines, including structural engineering, which is responsible for the design of structures such as bridges, buildings, and many others. A key feature in structural engineering is innovative use of materials for a given environment. These structures are generally supported on the ground, and therefore we want to ensure that the ground that they are supported in is stable and sound. Geotechnical engineering is a field that is responsible for ensuring that the ground on which we support our structures is sound, and therefore that our structures will remain safe over the time for which we design them. Water engineering is the broad field that is responsible for ensuring that we have water, that we can have water storage, and that we can take that water from the storage, such as a dam, to a water treatment works, and that water then delivered to our homes or our factories. The water that we have used, which we often refer to as wastewater, is then taken to treatment works to be treated and returned back to the environment. In our urban areas, civil engineers are responsible for ensuring that the water is drained appropriately and that any solid waste is also disposed of appropriately, and that this is the field of urban engineering. And transportation engineering is responsible for ensuring that transportation systems, both on land, on air, and on the sea, works efficiently. Once we have designed our infrastructure, we manage the construction of that infrastructure to ensure that we deliver the quality that we design for. One of the most important works of engineers is to look after the infrastructure once it's been constructed. So infrastructure management is a big part of civil engineers work. Just want to put this into context with respect to South Africa and the African continent broadly. What would the role of an engineer look like in the South African context? To answer this question, one has to look at the challenges that face the South African population and the African continent at large. These challenges are obvious, they are on our faces all the time, and they include poverty and unemployment. They include inequality, where you see the rich living side by side with very poor communities. We also find that in many of our urban areas in particular, the infrastructure is poorly located, i.e. people live too far from the places of employment, and the infrastructure is generally not adequate. We have problems with public health systems, and more importantly, these days we have the challenge of climate change and environmental pollution. We have to deal with these things. We see them more frequently where cities flood, and we see in some areas it's dry. How do we, as civil engineers, contribute to addressing these problems? Luckily, there are a number of opportunities that emerge, have emerged in the last decade or so. Digital technologies have emerged, and they're providing extraordinary ideas and capabilities that could change our lives in a very positive way. We're seeing growth in new materials that are coming up. We see new ways of sourcing energy. And I must say that in the context of South Africa, the environment that is provided by legislation and other instruments is a very positive one. You look at the National Development Plan, and the government is really pushing towards sustainable development. What this means is that we have an opportunity to address some of the challenges that we face. And more importantly, I think one of the biggest opportunities is the people, young people in particular. And you have the opportunity to contribute to dealing with some of these challenges that face us. The contribution to solving national problems of the civil engineer is not very new. In the 1860s, a famous engineer, Joseph Razakhed, solved one of the biggest challenges at the time of the city of London in the United Kingdom. And that problem was that of sewers, which were creating huge, huge difficulties for the citizens. And this famous engineer solved that problem, which was named the Great Stink. And up to this day, the city of London is enjoying the solutions that were put forward by a bold civil engineer. I believe that the engineers that we have in South Africa today, given the opportunities to address the problems that we have, can also do the same. And the Department of Civil Engineering at the University of Cape Town is really aware of these challenges and embraces them, the opportunities that are offered by the environment that we find ourselves in, for example, digital technologies, to help us to come up with innovative ways to address these crucial social challenges. So our department, which is located on the upper campus at the University of Cape Town, has state-of-the-art laboratories for teaching and learning. We have state-of-the-art teaching facilities in a responsible manner, considering we have just been through COVID. But above all, we are embracing the challenges that we face in South Africa and in the continent of addressing poverty, inequality, lack of infrastructure. We want to train our engineers to be able to deal with such problems. And of course, our engineers are not just focused on these problems, we focus on the broader problems of growing our infrastructure base. So I invite you to build your future with UCT Civil Engineering, because civil engineering does bring dignity to the people. I thank you, and I hope to see you in the department in the future.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Neil. Thank you so much. We thank Pilot, our head of department, for the presentation that is given. And I think it gives a very good overview of what you, and I assume we're talking to potential civil engineers right now, can do and be part of building the communities or the world that we live in a sustainable and responsible manner. Right now, we actually just want to follow up with any questions and answers that we may provide. Whatever comes to mind, please just pop in the questions. I see we do have a few that I'm going to put in now. Neil, if you can just have a look at the Q&As that are coming through, and let's start working through those questions. If we finish all the questions, there's another activity that we can look into.
Well, thanks, Lita, and hello, everybody. So I'm Neil Armitage. I'm a professor at the University of Cape Town Civil Engineering Department, and my field is water engineering, but actually the way Prof Moyer presented it looks as though I'm urban engineering as well. So I cover both. One of the first things that I just want to tell you about is that civil engineering is by far the most interesting of all the engineering disciplines. We deal with the biggest projects. We're out there in the wide open, and we employ everybody else. So the chemical engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers all end up working for us sooner or later because we're working with the bulk infrastructure. I often used to tell students or prospective students, if you wanted to know what civil engineering is like, go and to the top of Table Mountain, look down, and practically everything you see is us. The roads, the airports, the buildings, the water systems, everything is us. And everybody else is kind of the little bits in between there, like motor cars and the other things. Okay, so what I'm going to do quickly is run through a couple of the questions. I see they're mainly of a technical nature. I want to start with the first one because it's the one I like the most. And that's, am I able to go into environmental engineering with a civil engineering degree? And that's a fantastic question. Firstly, if you look in South Africa, I'm not aware that there is an environmental engineering degree standing on its own. And there's a reason for that, because actually, if you want to do environmental engineering, you basically got to become a civil engineer. I am effectively an environmental engineer. So my field is water, as I said, and I deal with lots of things, but I deal with particularly stormwater systems, drainage systems. In the past, I've dealt with water and wastewater treatment and many other things besides. I started off as a roads engineer and all of those things impact on the environment. So civil engineering is that's about the only place you can start in this country in environmental engineering. Overseas, they do have standalone environmental engineering degrees, and guess what? Half of their degree is civil engineering anyway. So yes, you are able to go into environmental engineering with a civil engineering degree. Absolutely, come and join us. It's the future of the world. Okay, so more technical questions. What are the requirements needed for applying for this degree? Now for that, and it goes for all degrees at University of Cape Town, you need to get on the site, go to the University of Cape Town site, look at the admission, and you'll get a form. I don't know whether I can share it. Can I share on this thing? All right, everybody. So this you will download from the web page, and it's for all the different departments of UCT. I've picked up obviously the one from engineering, and you'll see the NSC interest requirements. If you're not coming from NSC, there's a separate document for that, and it tells you how to calculate your points. And the most important thing for the purposes of this discussion is on the second page, civil engineering, and you're getting these FPS. And if you look back here, it'll tell you faculty point score is the FPS, which is out of 600, calculating by adding the percentage NSC English, Maths, and for the subjects is specified below. In the case of civil engineering, it must include physical science. All right. And the other one that you'll see here, the weighted point score, is what happens is that there's an adjustment if you have been disadvantaged in various ways, and there's a long list of how you'd be disadvantaged. Got mainly to do with your schools or your social background. But the bottom line is that this is where everything that you need to know about getting into civil engineering is given to you. There are 3 categories, band A, B, and C. So this is open entry to everybody, whoever, faculty point score of 500, which is about 82% average for matric, greater or equal to 80% for maths, greater or equal to 70% for physical science. Then there's a weighted point score, which is also open to everybody, but adjusted for your circumstances. And here we see that it's dropped down to about 480. And off the top of my head, I can't remember what that is. It must be 80% with after adjustment. So it might be that you actually only have 75%, but you might get extra points for disadvantage. Still 80% for math, 70% for physical science. And then this is kind of the bottom. So 420 is an average of about 70% at NSC. And again, it's 80% and 70%. So you'll see, I'm going to just don't think there's anything else here. Okay, so let me see if I can stop presenting. Will that take me back to, there we go. So there is another screen here, another list if you're coming from Cambridge or the rest of that, but essentially that's the answer. The key thing, as you'll see, is actually maths and physical science. So you do need to have good maths and physical science to get in. But I do urge you, if you're interested, to apply, even if you're not quite sure if you're going to make the levels, because sometimes they are adjusted slightly at the end, depending on how many offers we get, how many applications we get. So I hope that makes sense to you. Do you accept technical subjects like technical mathematics and technical science? And if not, why? And I think the simple answer is that we don't, unless they are. We'll accept NSC subjects. You saw the list, so you can go and look at the list and see if it's there. But the critical thing is that we need the full mathematics and physical science to get in. If not, why? Because you'll fail. Basically, the requirements for mathematics and science and physics and chemistry at university are quite high because the courses are difficult. So I don't want to put you off, but the courses as they stand have amongst the highest failure rates of any courses in the curriculum. If you don't have that as a background, you're going to struggle. But if you do, I'm sure you can manage. You need to have the proper maths and physical science. If I have one term below the minimum requirements, one term below 70% maths from my NSC. I don't know what you mean by term, but what I was going to say, as I said a bit earlier on, you don't know what your national senior certificate results going to be like unless you've already got your results. Maybe you did it last year. But certainly what I do is, if you are close, I encourage you to apply anyway, because you might get lucky. Every year, I know with my kids all did much better than the school said they would do. So I don't want to put you off. Try anyway. And the worst that can happen is you're unsuccessful, but you may be successful. So you should try. Is engineering a good field for introverts? Ah, there's an interesting question. It's a good field for everybody, actually. Because it's such a wide field. There's always room for introverts. Now, we used to joke in the consulting company that I had that the extroverts all went to what we call civil engineering. That's dealing with roads and water and all the rest of it, and they're out there. And the introverts used to deal with structures because they sit in their offices with their computers. That's been a bit rude to construction engineers. But what I'm saying is there's room for everybody. So just because you're introvert, that's no problem at all. And actually, you might find that after you've got involved in engineering, you're not quite the introvert that you thought you were. So yeah, what is the highest degree I can study for in civil engineering? Interesting. Well, I've got a doctorate. So I don't know whether that's the answer to your question. So I've got a PhD. And I know people have got a senior doctorate, which is a DSc. The sky's the limit. It takes you all the way up to the top. What career fields are suggested if one takes civil engineering as their main course? Well, it isn't a course, it's actually a degree. So obviously it's set up for civil engineering, and the civil engineers tend to be found conventionally in a number of places. You can be doing in the design office, designing infrastructure, or you can be in a contracting company out on site with the bulldozers and the cranes building these things, or you can be in municipalities managing all these things, or you can be like Lita and IR, and we're teaching all of these things. So those are the basic civil engineering careers. But here's another thing as well. Many civil engineers will go on from a civil engineering degree and end up in all sorts of other fields across the world, because civil engineers are highly sought after in project management, in finance, in everything. In fact, if you look in China, most of the Chinese government are civil engineers because they run the place. If we ran the rest of the world, we'd probably all be doing much better than we are. So, but the fact of the matter is, it's a very good degree for giving you skills in problem solving. Can I apply with my design portfolio? Okay, well, I'm not quite sure what your design portfolio is. If it's for architecture, then sadly no, but it won't do you any harm. So it is really very much on those point count. The only alternative is for people who are transferring in, but they would have transferred in from another degree, maybe science, maybe from the University of Technology or something like that. But that's kind of a senior student application route. Okay, so Lita said contact admissions office for this detail. Okay.
Yeah, so I thought that, we don't know what the portfolio looks like, exactly what you mentioned. So it might be best to speak directly to the admissions office to find out if it would be acceptable or not. Well, it's I think we have about 2-3 minutes remaining, and I'd actually like us to have a bit of fun with this one, because it would be interesting to hear from our audience what they think civil engineering is all about. And to try and facilitate that, we're going to put up I assume you're sitting in front of a device, whether it's your phone or your PC, and you can, what I'm trying to do now is share something with you. That's not going to work. So going into Mentimeter, so if you type in Mentimeter on your phone, and I'm trying to put up the code here that you can type in. I don't know if we'll be able to achieve this in the next 2 minutes or so. I doubt very much that'll be the case. Okay, so if you go to www.menti.com and type in the code 591-62833. Lazo, I don't know if you're able to assist me here on this one, just putting the code up in a minute. And we just want you to answer what you think civil engineering is. And what I have with me is actually a screen that I wanted to share with you, if I can get to it.
Please share the screen, Lita, and I'll put it up.
Hopefully. Right.
Correct.
Okay. So if you go to www.menti.com, as you see up there, right, use that code to go in there. And we just want to hear from you what you think civil engineering is. And the interesting thing that you'll see happening here is that as you type in submit your response, it'll come up on our screen and it will give us a good talking point just to chat to you.
Could you please repeat that code? I don't think everyone might have got it.
The code is on the screen that I'm sharing. The code is reflecting right on top. It's that 59162833. There we go. Neil, are you seeing this? Physical development, construction, people say buildings in general.
Looking good. I see they've been listening.
Yep.
I want to know what happens to the water there.
Roads, structures.
Where's the water? Flood water. Water supply.
Okay.
Wastewater. Storm water. Recreation water. Oh no!
There's planning. That's interesting.
Maybe
let's hear what people. What did you think it was before actually hearing the presentation? You know, let's hear if maybe there's something that's being demystified for you. Okay, so that's great. Problem solving. I love that one. That's exactly what it is. Finding solutions to things that people don't think are possible to actually solve. Unconventionality. Yes, you always have to think out of the box, come up with these solutions. Unconventional. Okay, that's great. Bridges. So what you see happening here is that the word that's in the middle is what the most of our audience actually thought civil engineering was all about. So bridges, buildings, that's very common. Municipal services, you in there, Neil? Water systems. Are you
seeing? Water's growing, but I mean, it's the bridge over the water, isn't it?
Water management. Okay, someone actually put it in there that it's just construction. We hope with that presentation, the conversation that we've had, you don't think it's limited to just the construction. There's planning involved, there's provision of services, and yes, at the end of it, we do have to build the structures that that we use.
See, someone's put genius there, which is brilliant, because actually engineering comes from the same root word as genius. Engineering.
Engineering.
Right. We're ingenious.
I wonder how many people actually know that. Okay. Lazo, I think Neil and I can go on forever and ever on this one. This is really interesting information that we're getting coming through. So we will just hear from you when our time is up, and we thank our audience so much for joining us. We hope to see you, get those applications in, and hopefully we'll meet you real soon next year. I'm sure we have across the board grades from, I assume, grade 10 to grade 12. It really has been a pleasure spending time with you, and thank you so much for the feedback, wonderful feedback that you're giving us on Mentimeter. It will still run in the background once we're finished, and let's see. Yeah, I'll run maybe for 10 minutes or so. When I see less information coming through, we will then put it down. But thank you so much for your feedback, Neil. I don't know if you have a word, parting words.
Well, all I can do is wish you well in as you come towards your end of your school time, and hope that you choose the right discipline for you.
Very good parting words indeed. We wish you all the best, and thank you, lads.
Thank you, Lita. Bye, everyone.
Okay, bye.
Bye.